little studies, exercises in pen and ink are showing how the light source affects the tone across the object. So obviously in this area up here where the light hits the shape and it's mostly light, what I was saying before you joined us, Amelia, is you can use the background or the negative space to indicate that light edge. You don't have to use a whole load of lines. And as it moves across the form, obviously there's going to be more tone and it gets darker towards the back. But then there's also a little bit of reflected light on the actual very edge of the shape. So avoid taking the dark right up to the edge of the shape. The reflected light will be bouncing back from what's around it. And then you'll also do cast shadow. So where the light really can't get underneath the shape, it's going to be very, very dark. This is a similar sort of thing. The light source is here. This is the light edge. And this just shows how the tone moves around the form. And again, there's some area here that's reflected light. So it's not been put in as a real heavy dark. The darkest part is literally under here at the front where the light can't get to at all. Okay, now I think before you came in, I'll just backpedal for a minute. I showed the others this study of a shell, and I did say the subject tonight, shell or white shapes. If you haven't got any shells and you've only got white shapes, that's fine. But I'm just going to talk about the medium we're going to use this evening. Now, I've just got a Pilot 0.5 drawing pen here. Whoops, sorry. That's pretty nice to draw with, an 0.5. I've also got a biro, and if you use a biro carefully, it can make a very nice drawing. However, you don't get the same variety of line or mark as you do with a pen. And normally I would draw with a dip pen and ink because I think dip pens are lovely, but I have not brought that over here this evening. I've just brought some fiber tip pens because I thought, well, I'll make sure I've got similar to what I imagine you have got. So I'm going to just start off now by showing you a little bit of mark making. So oops, I'll turn this over and I'll show you the marks that all these different things make. So this is looks like an ordinary felt tip. So you get that sort of line. You can, in fact, use it very lightly and get a light line with it. Similarly, you can do a really chunky dark line. Okay. The Pilot, which is the 0.5, obviously will make a much finer line. You can't get the same chunky line. So then with this, I would obviously have to use something called cross hatching, and I'll talk about this a bit more in a minute. But you can create tone by cross hatching, and it has to be done in quite a controlled way, because if you just do it randomly, it's not very effective. The other thing I've got here is this is a fine. I'm not quite sure what this is. It's running out, but anyway, it's another fiber tip. And then obviously my biro. And the biro, you cannot, well, it's quite difficult to control. So be careful. You can do some wonderful fine lines with a biro. You can do cross hatching with a biro. Now, I did say have some water at hand because some of these fine liners are actually water soluble. So you can create a tone with them. This one as well, look, it's water soluble. Okay, and then when it's dry, you can go back and work over the top of it again. So you can get some nice, interesting effects with that. So whatever you've got to draw with, I hope you've got something that's suitable. We'll work with that. I'm just going to show you a bit about the cross-hatching business because I think it will be useful. Now, in this and you could do some yourself. In this exercise here, I've done some lines without any cross hatching going over it. In other words, they're all parallel, they're all equally spaced, and then I've run another line over the top of them, and you get a tone. So that's light, then it gets a bit darker. With 3 layers of cross hatching going in different directions, you get darker, and 4 or 5, then you get it very, very dark. But essentially, it's all done with equally spaced lines, okay? And you often see artists using cross hatching. It's a nice way of getting tone, but do be careful to keep consistent with the spacing and the angle. So that's 2 layers. And then if I want 3 layers, I would go over like this. And 4 layers, perhaps go in a different direction again, and you get a really nice dark area. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So if you want to use cross hatching in your drawing, that's fine. It's quite a nice thing to do. All these little studies have been done with cross hatching. That eye has been done with cross hatching and pen and ink, or the fiber tip, which is what this is. Okay. So I think if we all get started on one shape, which is what I did earlier on before you turned up, I took one of my shells and I've just started. This is actually done with biro and a bit of this pen and wash. So quite nice to combine the material. You don't have to do a still life. You could do a whole page of studies if you find that useful. I do suggest, though, before you absolutely begin, that you do one of them in pencil. Now, this one here, I still not entirely happy with it. It's a circle at the end, but of course, because it's on its side, it becomes elliptical. And, you know, this is the shape. Right? Now, depending on how I look at it, if I look at it head on, I can see a circle and very little of the back. If I turn it, I can obviously see the side, but the end becomes elliptical. And that's quite tricky. You know, I had it sort of like that when I was drawing it, and I still don't feel my drawing is absolutely accurate. So I'm going to do it again. So I might do 3 or 4 studies of the same thing until I'm satisfied that I've actually understood the form. And you can do it as big or as small as you like, it doesn't matter. Just try and be creative about your presentation and your approach. Okay, I'm going to leave you to